application deadline is February 14th. And these are $6,000 fellowships for undergraduates to support their summer research. And they are partnered with an industry mentor, and all of these SURF awardees and fellows will come to Pfizer in late 2024 to present their summer research. We're really excited to have them, and thankful to all the industry sponsors and the PIs who will be helping out these students. So if you have some research programs in your undergraduate that you'd like to promote, please send in your applications to the ACS. More information at theorganicdivision.org. In addition, we are getting really close to our spring ACS meeting in New Orleans in March. Hotels and registration are open. The program should be online at the beginning of February. If you are presenting, you should have received your scheduling notice at this point. But we're really looking forward to a bunch of amazing sessions. I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit. In addition, I know this seems a long way away, but the time goes really fast. The Denver meeting in August will be coming up quickly. Abstracts are open for submission through April 1st. So they are open now, and you can go online and see all the neat symposia that we have ready for the fall meeting in Denver. But remember, please submit your abstracts through April 1st. And a quick scheduling note on any of these submissions: if you have, when you submit your abstract, please, if you have any considerations like you can't present on a certain day, make sure you note that in your notes, so that when us program chairs have to jump through some hoops to get you on the days that you want. So please put those notes in your submission so that we don't have to do that at the end of the day. Thank you very much. So for our spring New Orleans meeting, we have just a ton of fantastic symposia. We've got a whole list of award symposia, like the Corey Award for Guobin Dong and the Brown Award for Bill Nugent. Creative work for synthetic organic chemistry. The awardee there is Varesh Rawal. Affordable green chemistry, Gunther Award, natural products. The Norris Award, the Gavin Olin Medal to Don Hearn, and the Organic Metallics Distinguished Author Award, in addition to a slew of fantastic organized symposia. Big shout out to all the folks that put in these symposia and organizers that come and help us out and volunteer to organize and preside over these sessions. Without people bringing ideas to the table, we're not going to have a meeting. But we've got a fantastic lineup of a ton of really cool symposia and talks, as well as our normal contributed symposia. So come and see all these fantastic speakers and talks and topics that we're going to be presenting at the spring ACS. And in addition, we have two global virtual symposia where folks from all over the world can present in their own time zones from the Middle East to Asia on a couple of different really interesting topics: the mechanical effects on reactivity of organic molecules, and the Asia Pacific Virtual Graduate Student Symposium. So those will be part of the ACS meeting in New Orleans, but will be virtual, just like this one is here today. In addition, for the fall meeting, there will be some industry awards that are presented. These will need nominations. So we have the Technical Achievement in Organic Chemistry. The nomination date for that is January 23rd. You can contact Elizabeth and Vanessa. More information at theorganicdivision.org. That is for BS/MS chemists in industry and government. There's also the Industrial Early and Mid-Career Awards, and Steve Silverman. Hi, Steve, you're on there. I see you on there. And Steve Wisniewski from BMS are both going to be the contacts for that. Also, again, go to the website for some more information. And our friend Hugh Davies and Lisa McElwee-White will be, again, organizing the Academic Young Investigator Award, and that deadline for that is February 6th. So please consider nominating your colleagues for some of these awards. I'm going to throw it over to Steve now to finish the rest of the announcements.
Okay, so I think a lot of people. Hi, everybody. I think a lot of people are aware that last year's National Organic Symposium was really well attended. Beautiful University of Notre Dame. Professor Carolyn Bertozzi was the Roger Adams awardee. Her talk by orthogonal chemistry from basic science to clinical translation was just phenomenal. Her lecture is now available online for DOC members. Check that out on on the DOC website, and we'll release about one every 2 weeks or so going forward. Next slide. So speaking about NOS, the 100th anniversary of the NOS is next year, and in honor of that, the NOS will return to kind of the region that the first few were held in. So it's going to be at Rensselaer Polytech for the 100th anniversary. Ed Fenlon is chairing it, and so we hope that we'll see a lot of people there. In terms of upcoming conferences that might be of interest, EWOC is coming up real fast. It's going to be held in person here at Merck in Rahway, New Jersey, June 20th and 21st. The Tetrahedron Symposium, Reaction Mechanisms Conference, and the Baltic Organic Symposium are all upcoming over the summer. Check them out. So just a quick announcement about the DOC website. If you're a member, I think you're aware that the DOC website has a pretty massive amount of data. Videos, things like that. Takes a lot of effort to maintain. So Brian Myers, one of our webmasters, is looking for volunteers to spend a few hours a week managing social media, news, award submissions, things along those lines. You get to attend one of the national meetings every year. So if you're interested and have knowledge of design, please reach out to Brian Myers. That's it for me.
All right, and so thanks everybody for joining in. And if you have any questions or comments about the virtual symposium, this is our new committee. We have Hugh, Jessica, Alex, and Daisy who are supporting Steve and I here. We are our hosts today, and I'd like to thank Carl for all his work in the past as he moves off the DOC, and we appreciate all the work that he did in getting this symposium up and running. And I'm going to next. Oh, I thought I had another slide. I do not. I'm going to jump into Malika's talk. So Malika, if you want to just start your share, and we'll get you going there.
Okay.
And while Malika is getting ready and sharing her talk, I just want to say I am so incredibly excited to introduce our first speaker today, Professor Malika Jeffrey-Zell from Boston University. Malika received her BA in Chemistry and Africana Studies from Wellesley College in Mass, and her PhD from George Washington University. And after a postdoctoral appointment at Carnegie Mellon, she began her independent career at Iowa State. And then she moved to MIT as a Martin Luther King Jr. visiting professor before she began her career at Boston University in 2016, where she is now a full professor and associate dean of the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. Her research focuses on the development of organic semiconductors and their use in optical and electronic devices, where they investigate structural property relationships of these electronic materials. Malika is an ACS fellow, a member of the ACS board of directors, and in her spare time is editorial board member of the RSC Journal of Materials Chemistry and Chemical Science. I could list a bunch of awards, but I wanted to add a personal note. I've been wanting to have her on the virtual symposium for a while, since the first time we met at the 2019 NOS. I didn't know anything about organic semiconductors, and the only band gap I ever heard about was the 7 years between Metallica releases. But her enthusiasm and wonderful presentation of her lab's work was really, truly inspiring. And how they use the structure-activity relationships, just like in MedChem, it was a bridge for me to understand that science. And I hope you enjoy this talk as much as I know I will. So Malika, up to you.
Awesome. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott, for the wonderful introduction and also the invitation to speak today. And thank you all for tuning in. And, you know, Scott, this is a perfect segue to what my experience has been with DOC. I think for the outside looking in, everyone identifies that the role of organic chemistry and developing molecules for pharmaceutical applications. And, you know, for the younger people in the audience, this is also a great home for those of us in the material space, because all materials chemistry begins with molecules. So to tell you a little bit about how we got to this field or how we all got there, I just decided I'd open up with an evolution of organic materials at large. And some of the things are what we tend to take for granted is that we've always had naturally occurring materials, naturally occurring polymers to be exact. We just didn't necessarily know that they were polymers in terms of their structure until later years. But in the beginning, man relied heavily on naturally occurring polymers. Wool, cotton, silk was all they had, fabrics, garments, sails, you name it, everything was made from these fibers. Until very recently, when we had a nice pivot into the world of synthetic polymers, and with some of the key examples being nylon, shown up top with Wallace Carruthers and the pivotal discovery. Nylon was actually a pursuit of mimics for silk. And so while many view nylon as a failure in terms of its properties not being identical to those of silk, it actually has similar properties, but also some different properties. But really, that's where the benefits of synthetic polymers lie, in that we can not just mimic the properties of naturally occurring materials, but rather make materials with new and improved properties. And a great example of that is Kevlar. And so, Scott, I saw your chat. Is everything okay?
Okay. Sorry, Malika, no, just got to get the YouTube up and running. Sorry, it's not working right now.
Got it. Do you want me to keep going?
Please go ahead. Yep.
Okay. All right. I saw something not working and I paused. Okay, great. So, you know, Kevlar is a great example of what we can do with synthetic polymers. We did not have synthetic materials that had high enough tensile strength to stop projectiles like bullets. And so this really spurred a lot of activity, and people began to make all different types of synthetic polymers, so much so that they're ubiquitous. Many of us can't even remember a world without polymers. But the next evolutionary step in synthetic materials was the design of synthetic metals. And in this quest, chemists began to pursue the fact of, can we make carbon-based materials that exhibit metallic-like properties? And the premise around this was built around aromaticity and extensive delocalization of electrons. I'll get more into this. And so these gentlemen here, Shirakawa, McDermott, and Heeger, were credited with the discovery. They demonstrate this in polyacetylene in 1977, so a short while ago. And what they found is that when they heavily doped the system, they could get near metallic-like conductivity. And so people began pursuing these so-called synthetic metals. But there was a lot of challenges associated with making a metallic-like polymer, namely including the lot of doping materials that were added, and people began to question that. But what you end up having when you have an extended pi system and you don't dope it heavily to get conductivity is you have a semiconductor. You have material with a fairly small band gap and whose optical electroproperties can be tuned as a function of that gap. And so a lot of research began in the late 80s and early 90s around this, this topic of organic semiconductors and the different possibilities for applications that it opened up. And here is Forrest and Tang, who actually started the work in OLEDs and OPVs when they were doing work at the Eastman Kodak company. So what exactly is an electronic material? Very vague term. These can be small molecules or polymers, but we group them together when they exhibit semiconducting properties. And these semiconducting properties come from the extended pi backbone, which has extensive delocalization. And these are some representative structures shown below. And you'll see that what they all have in common is pi electrons, alternating networks of sp2 and sp3 carbons. And so, as Scott alluded to, when you have a common organic material or even an alkene, you're going to have a wide band gap material. But the basic premise was that if we extend conjugation going from the simple alkene to the diene to the tetraene, and it was hypothesized that if we went to the infinite ene, the polyacetylene, we'd start to see a convergence. We'd start to see our filled pi level and our unfilled pi star level, or our HOMO and our LUMO, and we start to see, instead of this discrete band level, as we introduce different amounts of conjugation, that we would start to see them behave collectively and get the type of band behavior that you would get from a metal. In an ideal world, we'd like this band gap to go to 0, but because of Parell's distortion, which means that the pi orbitals never 100% overlap, you're always going to have a small band gap. But that's okay, because that gives us an opportunity to actually manipulate the optical and electronic properties of the system by changing the band gap. And so this work here also just demonstrates another critical point. While it was hypothesized that we had to go to the infinite eme, the polyacetylene, we don't necessarily need to go out that far for conjugation. And these chemists did some wonderful synthesis and in succession added an extra unit to show that when you went from 3 units to 4 units, all the way out to 11 units, at some point around 6, you see a convergence. So that's nice for us to know, because we don't have to make very big polymers to get to the optical electronic properties that we need. And I mentioned that these all opened up all different types of opportunities. Some of the top 3 examples of what we do with these materials is organic light emitting diodes. That was the early technology that used these systems. And it's kind of undergone a renaissance in recent years, and people have circled back. First, it was proof of concept. Yes, we can make organic light emitting diodes. There was some work on the field, but now everyone's really circling back because they realize that there's huge advantages, in particular in fabricating large area displays at reduced cost, because you may not need to use vacuum deposition chambers. The materials have also gotten better, and there's also an interest in solid state lighting. Field effect transistors, an example in the middle, shows that, and these are our circuitry. And while it was once never conceivable that we could have mobility, that we can move charge carriers at the speeds that we see in inorganic materials, we're starting to see materials that exhibit charge carrier mobilities, both for electrons, which are negative charge carriers, or our holes, positive charge carriers, on the order of magnitude similar to inorganic materials. So this is a huge benefit. And the lastly, where there's been a lot of movement, is solar cells. And this is because of the role it plays in green energy and the desire to convert solar energy, solar light, into useful energy. And so when it first began, you'd be lucky if you got a fraction of a percentage of proof of concept. And now everyone's pushing these benchmark of photocurrent efficiency, PCEs, are approaching 20%, which is now getting into the realm where silicon performs. And so these are exciting times. But with these opportunities also comes a level of complexity, and I'm showing some of the structures from some of the high-performing materials, and you can see there's a complex amount of heterocycles that have to be prepared in the molecule to get this type of performance. So my group has been interested in making materials based on benzyl bis azoles, and this is a long, well-known building block for making conjugated polymers. But what's interesting is the early history of these systems was actually for high-performance materials, making materials with high tensile strength, something that would rival Kevlar. And they were able to do this because this material pi stacks very efficiently. So when you actually get into solution, it aligns very well, and then you spin the fibers, and the molecules are well oriented, which raises up the tensile strength. But as the field of organic semiconductors began to evolve, looking back at the structure, you can see that this is an ideal platform. We have alternating sp2 carbon system. So we have delocalization of electrons. We also have these heteroatoms that position differently along this molecule. So they present an opportunity for tuning the molecular structure. Others have begun to look at this type of system and show that polymers based on bisoxazoles are electron transporting, which is good because most conjugated materials prefer to be hole transporting. They have great photoluminescence and significant nonlinear optical susceptibility. So there was potential for using them in devices, but one of the biggest challenges was always the solubility and the harsh reaction conditions required to both synthesize and process the materials. And so this little figure summarizes kind of my career, in that what we did was we figured out how to get around the solubility issue. And that was to get away from the traditional condensation polymerization that was used to form the materials and do a 2-step process. And the first step really relies on some nice, unique chemistry where we're doing condensation reactions using orthoesters. And orthoesters are not nearly widely utilized as the other acyl derivatives, but they will undergo the same type of condensation chemistry, and we'll do it under much more milder conditions and much more efficiently. So we can do that orthoester chemistry under mild conditions, preform our rings, and then with those in hand, do a variety of different carbon-carbon bond forming reactions to make polymers.